Many of us don't spend too much time thinking about the air we breathe, but maybe we should. Our air is in a state of crisis. The hazy, infamous smogs of the 1950s have been replaced by a new type of air pollution. Even though it's not as visible as it used to be, the problems it causes are very real. Globally, air pollution causes 400,000 deaths each year, 29,000 of those in the UK, and it costs the British economy as much as £20 billion. Although air pollution is produced by industry and power generation, most urban emissions come from vehicles, mainly diesel exhaust and tyre and brake wear and tear. The European Commission has started legal proceedings against the UK after it's repeatedly failed to meet limits for one air pollutant, nitrogen dioxide. Almost 90% of zones across the UK exceed legal limits. Some cities don't expect to meet targets until 2025, while London, Birmingham and Leeds say they need another 15 years before they're able to comply. Air pollution is responsible for more deaths in Britain than road traffic accidents, passive smoking, falls or alcohol. The main pollutants are particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide and ozone. Nitrogen dioxide can cause inflammation of the airways at high concentrations and reacts in sunlight to form other pollutants like ozone. Particulates less than 2.5 microns are 100 times thinner than a human hair and are thought to be one of the most dangerous pollutants. Because they're so tiny, they can easily cross into the cardiovascular system, deep into lung tissue, causing serious damage. The World Health Organization says there's no safe exposure limit for these fine particulates, and it's classified diesel exhaust as a Group 1 carcinogen.
I do suffer from asthma a little bit, and so I do have the problem of car exhausts. And I notice it particularly in the morning, if you're unlucky enough to be walking along the street with a line of traffic built up, you know, the traffic light or something like that. It's really hard on me. I find I can even feel a little bit dizzy from all the fumes, particularly diesel. That's absolutely the worst.
More than a third of the 29 million cars on UK roads are diesel, and instead of a reduction, that number is growing. In the 90s, the government incentivised the uptake of diesels because of their lower carbon dioxide emissions and better fuel efficiency. We now know they emit up to 4 times the nitrogen dioxide and 22 times the particulate levels of petrol vehicles. So, has air quality been sacrificed to help lower carbon dioxide emissions? The Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs is currently reviewing air quality regulations. It received more than 18,000 responses criticising its initial plans. It wants to shift the focus away from giving local authorities legal duties to monitor and report air quality, and towards actions to improve it. But how can something be improved if it hasn't been measured? Over the past decade, local authorities have built up a comprehensive network of air quality monitors for a range of pollutants. The proposed system would scale this back to just 137 DEFRA-controlled national monitors. Many local authorities and air quality groups oppose the downgrading of local monitoring to a voluntary status.
It's highly likely that local authorities would never again be aware of actual breaches in PM10 limit values. Many local authorities would cease to find the monitoring and expert personnel needed to support meaningful management of air quality locally. Monitoring pollution is essential for managing air quality, as it tells us how effective policies are in reducing concentrations over time. Statutory monitoring is required, as without this, local authorities have little or no incentive to improve air quality. It could adversely impact air quality by watering down requirements for monitoring and disguising many local hotspots within coarser national reporting.
Moreover, DEFRA has admitted that air quality hotspots taken into account by local authorities might get overlooked under its proposed system and lead to unquantified health impacts. Behind the push to reduce legislation is the Red Tape Challenge. It's a wider government initiative to scrap 3,000 regulations aimed at easing the burden on business and saving companies more than £850 million a year. DEFRA has played a big part. 800 of these scrapped regulations are environmental obligations, including 80,000 pages of environmental guidance. But has it worked? The Institute of Air Quality Management said that at a time when resources are shrinking, a common local authority response was that they needed more rather than less prescriptive guidance. It added that very few improvements in air quality have come about without regulation.
So definitely I commute into London, and if you just walking around compared to when I was at university, it's just, you could sometimes like have black like in your nose or whatever, or it's not so good.
Well, I live in Kingston, and I think air quality is bad because of the one-way system, so everyone gets stuck in one-way system. I had friends who came here and ended up going in one-way system 3 times because they were stuck and couldn't find a way. So I think that's the main cause. Maybe if the car parks were a little bit further away from the centre, or maybe if people walked when they could, yeah.
So what are the solutions? Central Paris is banning diesel vehicles starting this July. Germany has established a national framework of low emission zones. And planting more trees in urban spaces could help to lower the emissions in pollution hotspots. Some say appointing an independent air quality commissioner could help push pollution concerns higher up the political agenda. Everyone can make a positive impact. Walking on side roads, in parks, or away from the curb near heavy traffic can reduce exposure to heavily polluted areas. And by switching the car engine off while stationary and not revving too much when driving, motorists can cut back on their emissions. The discussions shaping future policies for air quality in the UK and across Europe are happening right now. And politicians and decision makers need to know it's crucial to get the right strategy in place to make sure the UK meets safe limits. The more questions we ask, the more weight they'll give to our concerns, and the more we can help to change what happens next.